by calling the meeting to order at 7:02, and then I will just call the curriculum committee members for attendance, and then we'll go right into the agenda. So we have Al.
I am.
Excellent. Teresa,
Present.
Dr. Cronin, absent. Lauren here, and Louisa is here. Alrighty, excellent. Dr. Casimiro, I guess I will hand it right over to you, and you can give us a little introduction of what's happening.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to say thank you to Dr. Martins, who is on her way to her daughter's recital. And so she is pulled over to make sure that she's able to participate today. So thank you very much, as well as everyone else on the call. So tonight is really just an academy update. So a lot has been happening behind the scenes. As you know, students have engaged in a selection process, and there was lots of questions at the beginning of the year about how that would go. And it's kind of blown by very quickly. So here we are, it's May, almost June, and we have our high school staff here tonight to talk a little bit about how that process went, and you get a chance to see how those results shook out. So it's very interesting and very exciting. We have Melissa Nadeau. Dr. Nadeau is on tonight. I'm not sure if Trish Davina Hall's on tonight, but as well, but she's going to
Yes, I
go
can.
over. Oh, thank you. Hi, Trish. I can't see on my screen. The Academy's essential curriculum. They're going to walk us through that process and how teachers were engaged and what sort of the components to that looks like, so that the board, is involved and aware, and that we can understand sort of how that curriculum development process is going. And then also talk us through some of the documents that have been produced, for the board's purview, as well as we've attached those to the invite for anyone who wants to take a look at those. And then I'll talk a little bit at the end about the congressional appropriation that we've received and how we're starting to package that grant along the lines of the goals that it was written towards. So we're happy to do that. So right now I'll turn it over to Dan and Meg, and they can walk us through the latest Academy update.
Thanks, Kara. Do you want me to, or you're gonna run it from where you are?
If this looks okay on everybody else's end, I'll use the PDF that was attached. How's that? Does this work? Is this clear enough for
Yeah.
everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for having us here. Meg's, like I said, sitting in her car right now. So I'll do most of the talking since she can't see the screens. But we're here to talk about the Academy selection process. And as it says, the results are in. We did what we believe a very good job of going through this entire process from planning start to finish, and our last part's coming up. So let's talk about the process before we talk about the results. Process began as soon as we came to school, an exploration course. The exploration course is the course that all freshmen took, probably 95% of them took in the first semester. That starts off with them learning a lot about themselves, setting the expectations for Danbury High School. And then as it works through there, it starts going to heavily about the academies. During that time in September, we also came in contact with the group that was going to run the lottery for us, which is called Gunna Solutions. They did a fabulous job of setting this up for everyone, real nice and easy, and it went smooth. We worked September, October, October, November, working with them, trying to get the verbiage down, how we wanted to make this selection process as easy as it could and friendly for students and parents when they look at it. So during that process, then we hit January. We started with a all freshman assembly where all the freshmen came in. We started talking about the process, and then we also did team assemblies in which we met in the black box with the different teams. There's 8 of them, plus our ESL population, and started talking about what was going to be happening. More straight info about the overall structure of how academies work, showing the graphics that we're all familiar with and how the freshmen went through there. And from there, we broke it down for 2 weeks of mini flex sessions. So they got an overall from their exploration course and us as a whole group of what the academies look like. And in their exploration course towards January, they really started looking at the careers and what jobs could be coming out of each academy. For example, if they had an interest in medicine, it's an easy one to pick, what jobs they were, how much of those schooling was involved, how much, the salary was, and those type of things, so they could get a good understanding of where each academy and course would lead them. Then the mini flex sessions were presented by the academy directors. We did that for 2 weeks, so they had a chance to get into each academy. Meg and I presented for communication and design, and were pleasantly surprised at how well prepared the students came in, not with just the knowledge of, the basics of, yes, we got the email, yes, we know when the selection process, how it works, when it's due and all of that, but their information and questions they had regarding what these would look like. They got, for example, if they came to Flex for communication design, they got a little mini tour of the black box and how their audio design class would look like. They got a little tour of the TV studio, the Hatter TV studios, and the sound box and things like that downstairs. And then after that, we did Academy Information Night in January for parents to come. Kind of ran through the overall how the process is going to work. Information for them, showed the program guides that Melissa and Trish have worked very, very hard to get to. They are easy and super friendly for people to see and understand. Then we hit February. We did another information night for parents, just to make sure that anybody who couldn't get the first one came to the second one. And from there, we did the selection process closed, and counselors and the admins up in the Exploration Academy met with students who hadn't selected a selection for various different reasons. So we went through and asked them and explained to them why they needed to do this, so they have a little voice in where they could possibly go. We've been sitting on this information as we're working through our scheduling process, and now it's time for the Academy reveal, which is coming up June 6th, and the admins have been working extremely hard on trying to make this a fun event for them, but kind of run out of options when it's a big class size of 800 and what we could possibly do. We went through the whole, do we do like a good old fashioned, sorting hat and tell them where they're going to go and things like that. So we have a good little plan coming up for them, and that's coming up June 6th. We're going to try to make it as hype for them as they say, as we possibly can. So it's a good introduction onto their academy directors and their path. You want to move down, Karen? Thank you. So here's the overall of what happened through Gunna Solutions. So 80% of the students who selected, and I mean by selected is because some students didn't select for various reasons. We have some programs like our WALS or special ed or BAS programs who we didn't get to select where they want to go, because if their programming is for them to go to the hospital, which is a very successful program for them, we put them in special academies. They're in, the Terry Wild group for public service. They kind of dictated where they would actually go. So programmatic changes and things made their choices for them. But for everyone else, 80% got their first choice, 12.8 got their second choice, and 3.5 got their third. And it went all the way down to 19. No one got that far, but it went all the way down to they could select all 19 pathways at the time. This does exclude the new one, the new academy, because we could not go back and have time like we spent all the time from September to January talking about them to add this on. So that one will be rolled out next year. So we're very happy with the 96.4% of students receiving one of their top 3 choices. The ones who selected, they got to choose where they want to go. So we're very happy with that part of it.
Dan, we have a question.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, Lauren.
No, that's okay. I didn't notice it. So, Dan, we have a question.
Shoot, fire away. Where are we? Oh, Teresa. Sorry, there you are.
What is the total number of students?
There's 720 students selected that went to it. 800, the total number of freshmen is 800, and it varies, but I'll say around 830. So.
What happens to the ones who don't, who don't select?
Well, a lot of them are the special education programs that we talked about. They are placed into academies because their special education programming kind of dictates where they have to be, whether it's at Danbury High School, because what we have at that building, which will not be replicated over in the other building. So they have to stay there. And everyone
you.
else, we place them into academies.
And if I could just add to the discussion regarding vocational programming for those, it's typically our students with more significant special needs is a big discussion at the PPT process regarding, which program that they go into. So there is input throughout that process, but not a direct selection through this.
We felt that while they will not be taking the courses that the other students will avail themselves of as they go through it, we felt it was very important for all the students to be recognized in an academy. So when we start talking about our academy celebrations, they're a part of it just like everyone else. We'll be making special awards for them and things like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the things that we noticed quite early on was we thought that freshmen were going to kind of pick by where their friends went. It's the new building, I want to go to the new building, or it's not the new building, I don't want to go. But when we started looking at the breakdown of the first, second, third, and up to fourth choices of what students chose, I was very, very pleased to see that it appears they chose by what they wanted. They did not choose. We didn't find any peer blocking, like, oh, everyone choose this one. Kids really chose what it looks like they had an interest in. Same thing with the building. The building didn't dictate to us, it looked like, where they went. And we're going to go through some of the demographic numbers in a second for each academy. And I think you'll see that they're pretty even all the way through. And I'll make some points as we go through as why we believe some of these numbers may be a bit different.
Next slide, Dan.
Sure. I'm sorry.
Okay. So
it kind of rolls the same way for all of them, but this is emerging tech and entrepreneurship. And this is the ethnic breakdown of where it is at, 63% Hispanic, 7.1 Black, and 19.2% white. You'll see that those numbers probably only range within a 4% difference between any of the academies that we look at, which showed us that there was some interest. There are some other outlying ones that we're going to investigate just a little bit further once we get going, but you'll see as we go through. You can scroll down. Gender, emerging tech and entrepreneurship. It was, kind of a 60-40 split between males and females. Non-binary was a choice, but most students did choose one or the other. And for programming, it's 7% SPED and 22% ML, which kind of mirrors where we are. You'll notice that, at DHS, and Kelly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're probably at about 15% SPED. But as we said, not all the SPED students could choose where they were going. They were given a choice, so they're kind of not reflected. This is the students in charge. Teresa, you have a question? Or is that up from before?
Yeah, no, out of all the academies, which one had the highest enrollment? Just curious. I mean, there's no numbers, you've got percentages. Which you did a great job, but I'm like, what is the best one or the most popular one?
You'll never ever get me to say the best one, but the most popular one seems to be scientific innovation in medicine.
Oh,
so that seemed to be the most popular one. I could tell you the least one was probably info and cybersecurity.
Oh,
so.
Huh.
Otherwise, they were pretty even because you had to choose and it had to put you somewhere. And we didn't there was so many spots that the students could go to. So that's why not everyone, if we just opened it up and put everyone where they wanted to go, you'd have, say X amount of kids in 300 kids in the science, innovation, and medicine one. But that's why we had to put caps on. And the cap for each pathway was 50. So it's 150 per academy. That they could go into, but it worked out very well, even because if you saw those numbers of first choice, 80% of their kids that chose got their first choice. You want to go through, Kara?
Yep.
Here's scientific innovation in medicine. You'll notice the numbers don't change much at all. It's maybe a 5-point swing from where we're going on one and the other. Where you start seeing the swings is as you come down. The other one we just saw, emerging tech, was kind of male heavy in what it was, and this one is female heavy. For the medicine, it's almost the exact opposite. It's 60-40 in the female one. So while it's not too bad when we're talking about 150 kids, when you're looking at maybe a swing of 10 students, either way, 80-70 type stuff, or a little bit more than that actually, but they went through. And then when we talked about SPED and MLs, it's 5% in this academy and 70% MLs. This is info and cybersecurity. Here we go again, the same things, 59%. You know, they all, the Hispanic population that is leading the charge in this one, and 15% white was down. You know, as we're trying our best to try to get more females involved in computer engineering and STEM in general, you'll see this one is pretty male dominated when it comes to the computer informations and cybersecurity. We will definitely look in the future on pushing for that to try to get this at a much closer to 50-50 split. But this was probably our greatest one. And special education and MLs, this was a heavy outlier for the ML one, and I'm thinking it had a little bit more to do with the students that didn't make the selection when the selection was over, and we're the ones that we had to go chase, but we have no real data for that right now because we weren't thinking that way when it came through. So we're going to have to look at that number and just see if it was this year or if it's something that is a trend throughout. You know, cybersecurity also, believe it or not, had a lot to do with who was making the presentations, how the presentations went, who decided to bring out the cool things that they do. I know for art, engineering, and design, you know, they brought out some pretty cool things that they showed during those mini flex sessions that made kids kind of go, ooh, that's what I thought it was. And there they go. So professional and public service, I couldn't figure out how to outline the professional public service. That's why it's yellow like that. Again, pretty even across the board. This one, you know, deals with the law and the civil service part of public service part of what we're doing, and culinary. It came out even on the ethnicity part, but then as you keep going down through the gender part of it, you'll notice that it, keep going, Kara. This is our heaviest female one. This came out, they wanted to do that. You know, there are probably a doctoral study waiting to happen right here for somebody on why this occurred. But, you know, it fits the trend that we've all read about when you're talking about STEM and computers and stuff like that. It's a little bit more male driven. And when you're talking about public service, the education part and things like that, it's a little bit more female heavy. So we're just kind of mirroring what, you know, everyone said. So we're going to work very hard to get that changed to 50-50. This one has a heavy SPED population because there are two BAS programs that are placed in this one because of the public service part and the programming at the high school. So they were placed in there. But ML, again, is at 18%. It's right around the 22s we've seen, besides the outlier of 40%. Art, engineering, and design looks just like the other ones. This one is almost an exact mirrors of the ones before it. There's really nothing. It was chosen where they're going and how it worked. Another 60-40, which isn't bad. You know, when we start getting a little bit, you know, into the 80-20 type range, that's when we're looking at some serious stuff or anything higher than that. But art, engineering, design, this is going to be an interesting mix of, you know, students in this one because you have art along with the engineering. But again, it's this one's at the high school, so it's a heavy SPED because they're staying there because of program reasons, and a 30% MLL. Communication design, same thing as the other ones. It almost looks like the mirror image. And if you like those graphics, you can thank Dr. Martins because she worked very hard on the logos to try to make them. And you know, as I look at them now, they're very impressive on what they are. We tried to find a similar format. We got some work to do with two other ones, but then we're done. And Then we have to do the Green Academy as it comes out. So, our male female one, this was the closest one we had from male female. When they were in there for the communication and design one, I think it talks to the communication part of it and the STEM part of it, that all come together. So it'll be interesting mix on in this academy, definitely. And again, this one's at the high school, so SPED's a little bit higher and ML's a little higher too. I mean, we were very pleased at the way first one we concentrated on was the ethnicity of them. We broke it down by college prep and honors classes that we had to give in the different ones. And it seems like the scientific innovation in medicine one has a little bit heavier honors population in it. But besides that, they were pretty even the whole way through. And that's as far as we've gotten with our schedule so far and where we're going on.
Okay. That's the end of that.
Questions?
Any
I have a
committee member questions?
Sorry, Lauren. Yeah, I have a quick question.
Go for it.
What was the turnout for the information nights?
First one wasn't too bad. I'd say it's probably 100 total people. It wasn't that bad. The second one was non-existent. We were all there, and we probably had more admins than we did parents. We had scheduled, we were going to do a third, but as we were going through it, we weren't getting a ton of questions at that point. We weren't getting any questions. So we were like, all right, I guess we're good to go forward. And we really haven't gotten any more. I imagine it'll pop up when we bring it out on the June after the 6th, when they get their academies and things like that going. We spent a lot of time discussing this, and I really believe that exploration course that is taught in that first semester set an absolute great foundation that these students could go home and talk to their parents about it. And, if you ask your student, hey, what is this? Or what's this academy? And they give you yeah, I'm good, I got it. Then you're kind of like, all right, you got it. We're good to go. And I think we hit it. The first one who had questions, and believe it or not, more of the questions we got were not around the programming part, but just more of, well, what happens if they want to play football, but they're in the other building? So it was, things we've all answered and we've said a million times over and over, but just to get those, and we've had answers for all of them because we've been, pretty well. This team sitting here on this Zoom right now has done an excellent job of planning this entire thing. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a couple of hiccups.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? And any other Board of Ed member questions?
Teresa,
Teresa, do you?
Can you explain to me again how the special ed and the MLL, how does that work in these programs?
Well, the only one that is different for them is some of the special education programs. That's it. ML students, they are choosing just like everyone else. We had special sessions for them. Exploration was actually taught in kind of a bilingual type setting to make sure they had the information. But they select just like everybody else. The only ones that really didn't get a chance to select, and Kelly, I don't know how you want to explain. I'm going to let you do it. It's the BAS and the Liz Whites of our class. If you want to take that over and explain.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dan. So it's for our students with more significant special needs who have self-contained programs that a large portion of their day is done in a modified academic setting with vocational training built into their IEP or individualized education plans. So those students, even before we transition to the academy model, we're doing vocational training during their school day at the high school. And so those programs are continuing within the special education department. And for some of the students with special needs, it just wouldn't be appropriate to participate in some of the traditional academic classes. And so for those reasons, those students, while they'll be part of an academy, as Dan highlighted earlier, we want them to be part of the comprehensive Danbury High School programming and be included when appropriate. But for some of them, the academic courses will be done solely on a special education track in modified curriculum.
So they don't pick, they are placed.
So students through their PPT process, those decisions are made. So every student has at least one meeting annually where we discuss the individual programming for that child. And part of that discussion is both their academic program and any vocational instruction that they're going to receive. So through that meeting, the program is dictated and spelled out. And then as those decisions are made, as Dan indicated earlier, they're placed into the academy that's most appropriate to match that programming.
Thank you.
They would not be availing themselves of regular Danbury High School courses either. As an example, the group that was they go to the hospital and work in the kitchen in the hospital as part of it, they're going to be placed in public and professional service, which is our culinary one. So we can bring them into the culinary aspect of it, but they won't be taking culinary as a class. They can't do that, but they're still part of it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Committee
Yes.
members or board members?
Okay, just a question, and I know everyone has done their due diligence to our students. When you make these decisions, especially any student or our special needs students, and talk about putting them in any type of program, and when are you going to place them in the program? I know you have a really sit down conversation with the parents so they will understand clearly what's going on. Just a comment.
Yes, that's correct, Ms. Cooper. Thank you.
Lauren, can I ask a quick question, please?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm not sure who the best person is to answer this, but I'm thinking about our multi-language learners and sort of how they're going to be supported in, these individual career tracks, because I know, we are still sort of working around how we're going to better address the needs of that segment of our school population. And I'm just thinking about like what that means in terms of having either technology or a bilingual teacher in that classroom as they're going specifically through the career tracks. What does that look like?
I could answer that if that's okay. So we share the same, concern that has been a focus for us for a while. I might just jump into number 3 on the congressional appropriation, because what you just described, Kate, really is addressed in the focus of how of what we're doing in terms of programming and supports in our curriculum for second language learners. So the congressional appropriation is geared towards taking the current curriculum, the curriculum that's being built, and making it accessible and rigorous for all students, but particularly for second language learners. There's something called the KELP standards. And so those are basically standards for what's appropriate for second language learners to have and know and be able to do at different stages of language acquisition. And so the focus of that work and the congressional appropriation is to take a lot of time, money, and programming and technical support, and use that to take our current curriculum and to integrate those areas of support in for second language learners, so that teachers are clear on what the expectations are for students at different levels. So a LAS 1, a LAS 2, a LAS 3, those are the language acquisition levels, and then what they can expect of students in the curriculum, and it kind of guides them to be able to provide better supports. And so we're going to be all about that in the next, couple of years, in terms of taking our programming and making sure that it's universally designed and that it's accessible for all of our learners, and that we have specific reports, specific resources and supports spelled out so that teachers know where to go to address the different needs that they're seeing in their classroom.
Okay, I think Thank you so much. If we're all set with that one, I think we can move on, Kara.
Okay. So up next, we have Dr. Melissa Nadeau, and then we have Trish Davino Hall. Dr. Nadeau is our STEM curriculum administrator, and Trish Davino Hall is our humanities curriculum administrator, both of whom have stepped up tremendously during the transition here in supporting the needs of the department, and been doing a phenomenal job. There's been a tremendous amount of work in the background with the curriculum development and the work around all of the courses and the new courses in the pathway. And so we thought it'd be important to start to talk about those courses here. And I will let Dr. Nadeau and Ms. Hall take over and start talking about this essentials course. Did we lose it? Trish, are you on mute? And Melissa?
Melissa's
Did
here.
you want to cast, or do you want me to roll forward for you?
Melissa, you ready?
I think Melissa's got like family things going on, and their dog is either barking, she's laughing, she's trying to figure out what's going on. Like she knows how to hit the mute button. She's like, I can't unmute right now. My kid's screaming. It's bedtime.
Yes, and I'm here to fully support Melissa in her
There she
presentation.
comes. Oh, you had it. You
No,
clicked it.
no,
There you
so-
go.
Here she is.
You're good. She's having some sort of technical.
Well, we can talk about the essential course. No, we can't hear you. We can talk about what the essential course. So when we started with the exploration course in 9th grade, the essential course is what all 10th graders take. They are in their academy. Now there's some different specifics to them, but every single 10th grader will be put into an essential course. And I have not seen this presentation, but I imagine the next slide is going to go over what they're going to talk about and how they came about and the development timeline for what they did. We started this well back in the spring of 23, and Trish, you want to take over, you can too, but I think they're on the phone with each other. The spring of 23, we did have some funds set aside to hire what we refer to as pathway leads who can write this curriculum for.
Hi, Dan. I'm back. I phone called in because my computer keeps muting me every time I press unmute. Thank you for stepping up for me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Good, because that was about the extent of my ability.
You could have done
Well
that.
done, Dan. Well done, Dan. Thank you so much.
What a nightmare. Okay, sorry everybody. I've never experienced that in my life. Every time I pressed unmute, it muted me. It's it's very telling. So I'm starting with going over our essentials curriculum development timeline. So in our district, our curriculum development happens kind of in a sequence and an order. And we began our essentials curriculum development last spring with our curriculum boot camp. So we brought together all of our pathway leads who represent each pathway, and we reviewed how to identify the standards that would be prioritized throughout the year, how to start connecting those prioritized standards to the POG attribute, and really talking about what it means to be teaching through a career-connected lens, and making sure that we're prioritizing how the POG attributes show up in real-world connections. So after that spring boot camp, which was a 2-day boot camp, the teachers left, the pathway leads left with like a basic outline of what they think their course is going to look like. And this was on the heels of our industry partner days, where our pathway leads were really meeting with industry partners, multiple industry partners, to understand what basic skills in this pathway course would look like for academies. That creation of units began over last summer. So teachers went off, the pathway leads went off. They started to create their units of study. We had check-ins throughout the summer. So I would meet with our curriculum writers and give feedback in the first couple units to make sure that we're on the right path and making sure that everything is being aligned properly. So you'll see there, there's kind of a little rotation between those two areas. Yep, there you go. Where we are writing, we're getting feedback, we're going back and making revisions, and that's happening all throughout the fall. So that's happening on a continual basis. The curriculum teams are constantly meeting. We're giving feedback in the same time. And it wasn't until this spring that we actually had some finalization to the documents. And the finalization really isn't the word here, because really where we are is at a point where they're as completed as they can possibly be, because the real magic is going to start happening next spring as the curriculum is being rolled out. So, Dan spoke earlier about the career exploration course. So that career exploration course ran this year. And right now we're in the process. We have a ton of feedback from the students in the course. We have feedback from the teachers who were teaching the course. And so this summer we're going, even though it was finalized, we're going back and we're making those revisions this summer. And that's what will happen over the course of next year as the teachers start teaching these essential courses. Okay, Kara, next slide. So today I'm going to take you through the Essentials course for the Academy of Scientific Innovation in Medicine. So remember, this course is a 10th grade course. This is for students who signed up for this academy. And all of these students who will be taking this course will either be in a biomedical pathway, which is really kind of like a researchy pathway. You're still studying types of medicine, but it's maybe through the lens of being in a lab. Maybe doing some really high level kind of medicine type thinking. And then there's the sports and human performance medicine. One of the easiest connections we can make to this is like going to physical therapy, understanding kinesiology and how your body works. And then finally, the allied health services pathway, which we've had a very successful pathway for years with CNA. And we'll be adding EMT into that as well. So next slide. So you guys have been provided with a couple documents. One document is this PowerPoint, which I'm going to talk through. The second document was a PDF of the Scientific and Innovation Medicine Essentials course. That's the 50 some odd page document. So what I want to do is I kind of want you to reference that very long document as I go through this presentation, so I can pick out highlights of how these courses were developed. Through the lens of POG attributes, but also through the career connected lens as well. So on the slides, you're going to see blue, which is just information about the section that I'm referring to. And I'll give you page numbers so you can look at them. There's going to be yellow, which is direct wording from the document you have in front of you. And so for you to go back and look at in the future, there's commentary about illustrating what that example means in this curriculum document. Okay, so next slide. So in each unit, there's something called a guaranteed experiences and lesson sequence. So if you think back to your schooling in high school, your teacher went through a day-by-day thing, building upon knowledge as they went through a unit. That's what really this section is. This section lays out topics in the order of which they should be studied so that they can build upon previous knowledge. And it connects back to what in our curriculum documents is called the essential question. This also introduces our POG attributes. And it also has a beginning section, which for all teachers should be very common for every unit. We want every teacher to start with introducing that essential question, talking about what POG attribute we're going to be focusing on in this unit, but also talking about how that POG attribute, what those skills are, connects to what they'll be doing in their careers, but also how it is just a real world skill that can be useful no matter what type of career you go into. So if you guys, you can go to the next slide, Kara. On page 6 and 7 of your document, that the very long document that is shared with you, this is our Unit 1 essential question for our Academy of Scientific Innovation in Medicine. So in Unit 1, they are exploring this idea of what ensures safety. So essential questions for a unit are very big and broad. They allow kids to explore that topic through various lenses. And when they're going through that guaranteed experience, they're really building upon knowledge that can answer that question. And what the beauty about an essential question is that it's a question that does not have just one answer. So for this particular unit, if you look on your pages 6 and 7 of that very long document that has been shared with you, you're going to see that guaranteed topic sequence. And when you look at that, you're going to see topics that range from policies, you're going to see topics that range from how to put on PPE, which I think is like a word that everybody knows now after COVID. How do you put on gloves? How do you put on a mask? How do you scrub up using water and soap, right? They're going to look at safety signs we can even see them in our chemistry labs here in the school. They're going to look at regular practices in safety that exist throughout all health sciences industries. So what we are looking for kids to do is to make this really broad connection that, you know, what ensures safety is not just an easy answer, because what ensures safety is policies in the hospital, making sure that you personally are able to provide the safety that is needed to make sure that patients are being cared for, but that you're also caring for yourself too. In this unit, they study how the chain of diseases and how you can stop a disease usually just by washing your hands, but they track chains of diseases throughout an experience in a simulation, but also through case studies. So they're looking at how everybody has a part to play in safety. So next slide, Kara. So within the guaranteed lesson experience, right? So we're going through all of these topics to build upon their understanding of that unit. There's certain things that are built into some of these units, not all of these units, that guarantee students will have the opportunity to have an iterative experience in their learning. So if you're looking inside that very large document that I shared with you on page 16, it starts the learning experience for Unit 2. And in this unit, you'll see eventually on page 16, this little circular arrow grouping of arrows. So what this does in our units of study for our teachers is it signifies that in this section, these 3 topics in particular, we want students to go through an iterative cycle. So you'll see that they're starting with topic 5, how do healthcare occupations differ and why is it important to understand? And then they go to topic 6, where they talk about how to inform their audience about these healthcare occupations. It is then in topic 7 that they get some feedback on what they've communicated to their audience. So what we want students to do with that feedback is to go back through their learning cycle and go back up to topic 5, use the feedback that they received from their audience to go back and improve upon their presentation. I think what we did in these units for these particular situations is we made it less about the content they were presenting and more about how they are presenting. This is where we're trying to pull those portrait of a graduate attributes out and making sure that kids are they're speaking to those core components of a portrait of a graduate. So for this example that's up on the screen right now, these topics, students are actually practicing the POG attribute of communication. So in their communication, are they able to communicate to their audience what they want the audience to know? But then in return, are they able to take feedback from the audience? Because in particular in this unit, students are using active listening. So they have to actively listening to the feedback that they're getting from their audience in order to go back and make the changes to make their presentation more understandable for the audience of which they're presenting. Okay, next slide, Carol. So this chart represents in each of the essentials courses that have been created where these iterative designs are located. So it's just a chart that says, in computer science essentials in units 1 and 4, kids have this guaranteed experience to get feedback on what they're presenting or how they're presenting it, and then go back and make changes based on the feedback that they've received. And what we tried to do in each of these units, you'll see a box that's called Career Connected Lens. We try to outline who should be giving them feedback as well. So sometimes we do want industry professionals to come back and give feedback on their presentations. Sometimes it's just simply presenting to their peers. So we tried to really make some of these opportunities formalized to get industry feedback, but sometimes it is just an audience of their peers or even teachers in the school. Next slide, please. So that unit essential question, right? I just presented unit 1, which is what ensures safety. Okay, We want kids to really ponder that and think about that because, again, these are the essential courses. And these are the questions that are really going to be the foundational knowledge for them to build upon as they enter their junior and senior years and as they reach their capstone projects that will happen in their senior year. And so what we're trying to do now is link these questions to a reflective process to the students. So what you'll see in all of the essentials documents is an assessment planning where kids are going back and writing a brief narrative to go back and answer that unit essential question. So when they are answering that question, what ensures safety? We're looking for kids to explore that from their sense of personal self. They're looking to explore it from situational awareness. They're looking to explore it from federal policy or local hospital policy. And they're able to communicate that through their reflection. What happens with these reflections is that they're actually going to be a part of their portfolio. So the portfolio that they start in their career exploration course, this becomes a piece of evidence that they carry throughout their high school career, so that when they get to their senior year and they're deciding what type of capstone project to do, they can now look back on these reflections and say, wow, maybe I want to do a project in my senior year on safety. Here's some of the things I learned in my course load. Next slide, please. Part of that reflection is also on the portrait of a graduate. So in each unit, there is a portrait of a graduate skill or attribute that is being focused on. And so what we want them to do is go back and reflect on their progression in that attribute. Each attribute has a rubric. They can talk about where they started, where they feel they ended up, and pull from evidence in the course as to why they think they have they've grown as a communicator or as an innovator, right? So again, using evidence from the rubric is one of the Common Core standards for ELA, being able to pull from evidence in their experiences and use it to support their claim that they're making. And again, this body of evidence will follow them throughout their experiences in the high school, because as you know, the portrait of a graduate, we want them to be reflecting on that, and we want them to reflect on how their skills have grown in these areas. Next slide, please. So in these documents, the one that has been shared with you has assessment sections in it. I was very anxious about sharing these because these are how our kids are going to be assessed in these units. And as you can imagine, assessment security is very important because we want kids to be their own authentic selves as they're going through these assessments. And so what I have here is an example of how and this can be found on page 49 of the document that I shared with you. Again, I realize it's a very long document, but this is a unit that kids are going to be exploring towards the end of their sophomore year. And it's actually a research unit. So kids are going to study a disease, maybe something that affects themselves or a family member. And through that study, they're going to be focusing on the portrait of a graduate of a communicator. And in particular, they're going to have to communicate effectively through a variety of traditional and digital media for in all content areas. So this was a pretty exciting assessment for us to make. And there's two different parts of this. So the traditional part of this assessment is that we are asking kids to write a research paper and then take that research paper and create a research poster. So for anyone who's ever had to create a research poster, they are very plain. They are a big white piece of paper with pure words on it. It's a very particular type of presentation in a traditional form that's a very academic form. So that's one assessment we want kids to do that speaks to that part of that POG attribute that talks about using traditional media. The second topic is topic 7. And what we want kids to be able to do here is to take that traditional form and now create something, either an infographic or a social media post that is able to take those very researchy type health things and put it into a form that's easily recognizable, but also understandable to the general public. Because what we're trying to do here in the medical field is be able to communicate not only with people who are in my field in medicine, but also possibly people who I'm communicating to as a patient. I need to make my information attainable and understandable for my patients. I don't know, maybe I'm showing my 44-year-old age, but on my Instagram, I follow certain doctors who put things out there about perimenopause that I can absolutely understand, and they do it in really fun ways. And that's what we're looking for kids to do here. Take a topic, make it accessible for a general audience, but also be able to show it in a way that can show that you're a professional and you're in an academic setting as well. Next slide. I believe this is my last slide. So this shows how the POG attributes are represented in each of the units of each of the essential courses. So it just kind of is an array that shows, you know, in the computer science essentials course, we really are focusing on communicator and innovator just by the nature of the content of those courses, right? So we're also really trying to be aware as we move through these next couple years of creation that we are hitting as many of the portrait of a graduate elements as possible. Because again, if we're asking kids to reflect on their progress and that's going into their portfolios, they can have a full body of a portfolio to pull from as a senior and be able to do some reflection and creation of a capstone. So I believe that's it for me. I would open the floor up to questions unless Trish has anything she'd like to add now that my phone is working. She dodged a bullet there.
And I appreciate you for that. I
Are
just
there
wanted
any-
to say how incredible it was to even be able to introduce this essentials curriculum to all of the academies at Danbury High. Over the last month, we visited every academy and were able to introduce this and walk them through, and then tie in some connections and provide some ideas and for generating some specific lessons that might align it to within the other content areas. And so that was really exciting. And we thank Dan and Meg for that, allowing us to come in and do that work.
This was such great information, so thank you all for that. Are there any committee? I see Teresa has a question, so go ahead, Teresa.
What happened to learner column?
So the learner, that's a great question, Teresa. So if you remember the learner POG attributes, I'm going to try to sneakily pull them up on my computer as I'm talking here. The learner is in every single one of these documents. They're going to be actually at the top under the prioritized skills and attributes by nature of the essentials course, right? The essentials course is absolutely connecting to career skills. So the idea behind the learner outcome and the ideal state states that graduates use acquired skills and knowledge to transform life for self and positively influence the lives of others. So what you're going to see, Teresa, is that in these curriculum documents, that is prioritized number one. Every single one of these units is about being a learner, especially in the context of outcome two. Outcome two is students will independently apply real world life skills learned from a college ready and career connected career and connected curriculum. That is every single one of these essentials courses. So while that skill is not necessarily highlighted in the assessment section, it is literally the driving force behind every single one of these essentials curriculums. That is the outcome we want to see the most.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. You just did a nice job on the chart. And I'm going, wait a minute, there's nothing there.
Yeah, thank you. You're right. There is nothing there.
I mean,
I think when we get to senior year capstone, that's when they will show that big evidence of being a learner throughout every one of the courses that they experience within their academy. The ultimate goal is for them to showcase their learning through being a learner in the
Yeah.
capstone. So that will be your big highlight for learner as well, with a lot of evidence.
Right, right. No, that's, yeah. Thank you.
Any other committee member questions? Okay, board member questions?
I would just like to say thank you. I know everyone has been working, and I can't even imagine the time and energy, beginning with the big chief, Mr. Donovan, and Dr. Casimira, and everyone that has contributed to getting this information out to the board. And I'm just so excited about it whenever it opened that I wish I could go back to school, but I know that won't happen. But I just like to say it's very exciting information, and to know that there's a different phase of education that children are going to be partaking versus what I went to school and had to take. So I just don't see how parents can't get excited about this.
It's going to be a wonderful opportunity for sure.
If I could just add, Lauren, for a sec. The lift off in the background of this academy opening, everyone's anticipating the building being open, but we're open now. And I think it's important for people to understand that our first cohort they're our freshman group that we have right now. And next year they'll have this curriculum as being presented to you. And then while they're engaging in that, and we're gathering feedback from teachers and students on that implementation, at the same time we'll have about 10 more groups working on curriculum, the next level for grade 11. So we're always trying to go 1 year out in terms of developing the curriculum. Then we'll implement the curriculum, gather feedback on that curriculum and how it's going, and then engage in a revision process to make it better. So we get the teachers together. That's part of the work that Dan did a great job of pulling together a schedule. It's almost impossible when you think about it, a schedule where all of these teachers teaching in the same academy have a professional learning community. So that's a break during their day, during the school day, a couple times over the week, where they can come and talk about this and share how things are going. And then, making sure that they're addressing the student needs. So anybody who's, struggling or having a hard time, or sharing ideas on how to make things better. So that PLC time that has been embedded in the schedule is going to be a game changer for teachers to be able to collaborate around the great work and the curriculum that's happening and being built in the background. So super excited about it. I'm extraordinarily proud of the team that's working on this. It's night and day. If they've been doing it since the pandemic, we've all been working on it since the pandemic. It's still going on, and will continue to go on for the next couple of years at a very intense and complex manner. So just kudos to the team, and thank you for a great presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. And Teresa, I think you have another question.
Right. So you're saying this is for the 10th grade, correct? This is the 10th grade curriculum. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And so the course that she shared with you was an example for one of the courses, and there's multiple. So we can, we'd be here all night until next week if we were to go through all of those, but it's, very dense documents. So that was really just an example to walk you through. The last thing on the agenda is about the congressional appropriation, which I think I touched on kind of quickly. It was an opportunity to just really talk about taking these types of documents and then overlaying into those additional information to guide teachers on how to address the needs of second language learners at different levels of language acquisition. So the grant would be used for a lot of the training and professional development, digital tools, curriculum development, to professional technical support, to work with teachers to do this work and to work with our administrators, because our administrators are still working and learning on how to best meet the needs of second language learners. It's a real shift over the years, and especially as new folks come in, we have to continue to train and keep up with the training needs of both teachers and administrators. But also the grant will be used for bringing back, we hope, and restoring some of those SIOP and coaching positions for second language learners. So, we think it's a great focus. And again, there's not only is the curriculum work taking off, but also the supports that our students are going to need to be successful with it so they can access it as well.
Teresa.
From what I understand, aren't there going to be for each academy like a overview committee with business leaders? I mean, are we establishing that here as well?
Oh yeah, we're working on they're called advisory boards. And
Thank you.
They will have everything from teachers, students, community members to community partnerships that are with those academies. That's the work of Brent Dean, and he's been doing a great job in making these connections. And we're starting the onboarding of those next year.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Any other committee member questions? Okay. Board member questions? All righty. I know Kara just wanted to touch on one more.
Yep. So as long as you're done. So I know, we've had some conversations around, clarifying roles and responsibilities. The curriculum committee is still a relatively newer of the committees, and we've got a lot of new board members and even new administrators sliding at different roles. So I know part of the training for this and other things will come on June 24th. This is really more for the board members in the form of a workshop. And so we'll be able to touch on roles, responsibilities, and what we're all supposed to be doing and when with regards to our responsibilities around curriculum. So we look forward to that. And we'll be touching on that on June 24th, and there'll be more information and info coming out in my board update to the board. So.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I know this is a lot of work, and we appreciate you bringing it to us for further understanding. And we just really appreciate all your efforts and all that you do for us. And if there's no other questions, can I get
I don't have a
motion?
question, Lauren, but I
Sure.
just, I'd like to say thank you, because I don't know, we should always say thank you when you appreciate something. And I just want to say thank you to Lauren for putting this together and bringing this forth to the board. This is my second meeting. I got a little late on it, but it's something I had to run out and do. I want to thank Kate for first doing our community relation committee, and then we have Lauren to have put together this information for the curriculum committee. And I want to say to both of you, I certainly appreciate the hard work that you continue to do and continue to support this board and the board members that are always on to get more additional information and ask questions. And I feel like I should always say thank you. And I want to say that.
Thank you so much for those words, Gladys, and thank you for always being there for all of us. If there's no other questions, comments, or anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn? Teresa?
So moved.
Excellent. Can I get a second?
Second.
Al?
I second.
Okay. Excellent. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.